You are tired, but not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. It's something deeper, more ancient, a silence beneath your ribs, an ache stitched into your very way of being. You walk through the world with a smile that isn't yours, with shoulders that carry stories you never chose. Every interaction feels like a performance. Every yes is a quiet betrayal of something sacred inside you. You don't even know where the exhaustion starts. It doesn't scream, it whispers. In the way you avoid conflict, in the way you over-apologize, in the way you feel guilty for simply existing with boundaries. You've been told your whole life, be good, be kind, be polite, be the peacekeeper, the understanding one, the forgiver, the giver, the one who never makes waves. You learned early that to be loved meant to be less loud, less angry, less you. And so you became a shape that others found convenient, predictable, palatable, safe. You believe the myth that the good win in the end, that kindness will always be rewarded, that if you pour yourself out for others, eventually, someone will return the cup. But the world is not a mirror. It does not reflect your heart. It reflects your strength, your presence, your edges. You thought virtue would protect you, but sometimes virtue is a cage, built from your own silence. Machiavelli once said, "A man who wishes to act in all circumstances like a good man is doomed to ruin among so many who are not good." That's not cruelty. That's clarity. A brutal wisdom hidden beneath centuries of moral illusion. You've stayed silent to keep the peace, but that silence became your prison. You've smiled through disrespect, hoping your kindness would teach them how to love you. But all it taught them was that you have no boundary, no edge, no consequence. You've mistaken self-erasure for compassion. But compassion without a spine becomes self-destruction. Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few feel what you really are. Machiavelli. And if you don't define yourself, the world will define you in the image of its own convenience. The truth is simple, but hard. The world doesn't reward the most good-hearted. It rewards the most grounded, the ones who know their worth, and refuse to beg for acknowledgement, the ones who understand. Being loved is not the same as being respected. Being agreeable is not the same as being sovereign. The world does not reward the nice guys. The world rewards the strategic ones. This isn't about becoming cold. This is about becoming real. This is about remembering the parts of yourself you silenced to be accepted. This is about reclaiming your fire without apology. In a world that consumes the soft and fears the firm, the most radical thing you can do is remain kind, but not pliable. Remain open, but not obedient. As long as you are trying to please everyone, you will be in their hands, a hostage of your own kindness. But there is another path, one where your spine returns, where your voice rises, where your energy no longer leaks into ungrateful hands, where your kindness is no longer currency, it's choice. We are not here to destroy your goodness. We are here to sharpen it, to crown it, to root it in power. Because true kindness does not beg. It doesn't overextend. It doesn't seek approval. True kindness, when sovereign, can say no and mean it, without guilt, without shrinking. Let us begin this journey, from exhaustion to edge, from niceness to presence, from hostage to sovereign. The philosophy of boundaries. Let's talk about something no one teaches you growing up. Boundaries, not rules, not ultimatums, but the invisible walls that guard your inner life. The sacred perimeter between your soul and the world's demands. You see, no one warns you that if you don't build this border, someone else will build it for you, and they will build it in their favor. Most of us were raised to believe that boundaries were selfish, that to say no is to hurt others, that putting yourself first is an act of cruelty. So we made ourselves small to make others feel comfortable. We called it kindness, but it was really surrender. We confused virtue with availability. We mistook being agreeable for being lovable. But here is the truth. Boundaries are the architecture of dignity. They are not punishments. They are declarations. A way of saying, this is where I end, and this is where the world must stop trespassing. Because those who never confront, never threaten. And those who do not threaten are not taken seriously. A boundary does not mean violence. It means clarity. It does not mean withdrawal. It means self-definition. When you don't have boundaries, people don't see your kindness as a gift. They see it as free access, a vending machine for validation, comfort, and attention. Press the right button and get what they want without paying a price. If you do not represent power or consequence, no one will hesitate to use you. Let that settle. You are not weak because you're kind. You become weak only when you are kind without limits. You may think you're helping. That being endlessly available makes you noble. But what you are really doing is erasing yourself in slow motion. You don't need to explain why your energy is sacred. You don't need to justify why you choose silence over noise. You don't owe your peace to anyone who feeds on your guilt. You can kill yourself trying to please. But if you do not represent power or consequence, no one will hesitate to use you. That's not bitterness. That's mathematics. In the equation of life, what you tolerate teaches people how to treat you. Machiavelli knew this. He didn't preach cold-hearted cruelty. He understood something deeper. That presence, that authority, begins the moment others feel you have something to protect, and that you will protect it. True respect arises from the perception that you are someone with the power to act, that you cannot be trampled without reaction, that you're not a replaceable piece in someone else's game. Boundaries are that reaction. They are your line in the sand. They are your self-respect made visible. We think of nice people as harmless. But let's be honest. How many people have weaponized your niceness against you? How many took your patience for permission? How many saw your compassion and thought, here is someone I can take from again and again? Because when you are boundaryless, you are not perceived as good. You are perceived as easy. They are seen as a resource, not as a presence. As a tool, not as an individual. Harsh. Yes, but harsh truths are the ones that set you free. When you build boundaries, something incredible happens. You stop leaking energy. You stop explaining yourself. You stop being afraid of losing people who never valued you to begin with. And in that silence, in that space between no longer available and just beginning to rise, you begin to hear yourself again. You remember what it feels like to belong to your own life. Boundaries are not a rejection of others. They are a return to yourself. They say, I am no longer a field to be harvested. I am a temple to be honored. You can still be kind. You can still give. You can still care. But you no longer bleed for it. You no longer apologize for drawing the line between sacred and sacrificial. Because here's the secret they never told you. Your boundaries don't push people away. They filter who gets close. They don't make you cruel. They make you conscious. This is the philosophy of boundaries. You get to choose who has access to your soul. You get to decide who reaches your silence. You get to say, this far, and no more. Being good is not enough. In many cases, being good is the quickest way to be discarded. And if you must choose between being liked and being whole, choose wholeness. Every single time. The world will tempt you to abandon yourself. It will reward your self-erasure with applause. But only for a moment. And when you are empty, when your spirit is tired of being stretched into everyone else's shape, it will ask you, when did I stop being mine? Let that question become your revolution. Let your boundaries become your rebirth. The trap of pleasing and the death of the self. You weren't born trying to please everyone. That was something you were taught, and then trained to believe was love. The first time you said no, and were punished for it, you learned that safety lives in silence. That love must be earned by being less. That approval is a reward for obedience, not authenticity. It started with small things. Don't say that, it's rude. Smile more, you're prettier that way. Be polite, don't argue. And just like that, your edges were sanded down. Your voice softened until it vanished. Your truth buried beneath layers of what others wanted you to be. It's tragic, isn't it? How so many beautiful souls disappear. Not from death, but from accommodation. You learned that being accepted came at a price. Giving up parts of yourself. You wore a smile that wasn't real. You said, yes, when you were screaming no inside. You helped when you were exhausted. You forgave too soon. You swallowed your rage because anger didn't fit your image. And all the while, they called you good, empathic, easy to get along with. But that wasn't virtue. It was fear, dressed up in social approval. Fear of being rejected. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of being seen as difficult, too much, not enough. You feel responsible for the well-being of others, even if it destroys you inside. But let me ask you, who told you that love required self-destruction? Who made you believe that being kind means never being inconvenient? Who convinced you that boundaries make you bad? This isn't kindness. This is submission, a strategy your nervous system adopted to stay safe. Not because you are weak, but because you are wounded. We all want to be seen. We all want to be loved. But when you've been taught that your authenticity is unacceptable, you will twist yourself into something acceptable and call it virtue. But it's not. It's survival. You call it empathy, but it's fear of confrontation. You call it understanding, but it's fear of abandonment. You call it kindness, but it's fear of not being enough. And that fear has worn you thin. It has hollowed out your spine, turned your heart into a negotiation, and your worth into a performance. The mask you wear, the one that smiles when you're hurt, nods when you're being disrespected, and comforts those who exploit you. That mask has grown heavy, and soon, if you don't remove it, it will fuse to your skin. It will become your identity. You'll forget where the performance ends and you begin. This mask has a very high cost. It suffocates your authenticity, your power, and your dignity. But here is the truth that breaks the illusion. Being nice is not the same as being good. And being good is not the same as being whole. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to be messy, to be angry, to be firm. And yes, you are allowed to disappoint people who were only ever interested in your silence. Because you were never meant to be everyone's comfort zone. You were meant to be your own sanctuary. That means breaking the pattern. That means feeling the guilt and not obeying it. That means loving yourself enough to stop proving your worth to people who only value you when you're small. The day you are no longer useful, you will be forgotten, replaced, silenced. And the worst part? Without a shred of guilt from the other side. Because this is how the world often works. It does not recognize your sacrifices. It forgets your efforts. It ignores your intentions. It responds only to how much power you hold over your own life. It is brutal, but it is honest. The world does not measure your worth by your morality. It measures by what you deliver, by the influence you have, by the impact you make. And your impact doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being real, from showing up with boundaries, with fire, with truth. No more shrinking. No more quiet swallowing of injustice. No more smiling for crumbs. Let the anger rise, not to destroy, but to awaken. Let your no be your liberation. Because here's what they never taught you. You don't lose love when you stop pleasing people. You find it. The real kind. The kind that honors your wholeness, not your compliance. And the first person who must give it to you is you. The awakening of power. There comes a moment. A brutal, glorious moment. When something inside you refuses to die quietly. After years of bending, of smiling through the ache, of giving until your soul cracked. You feel it. The rise. It's not anger, not vengeance. It's clarity. A sacred defiance. A flame flickering in the ruins of your people-pleasing. And it whispers, no more. No more silence in the face of disrespect. No more emotional discounts for those who never pay full price. No more hiding your power behind politeness. This is not you becoming mean. This is you becoming whole. Because kindness without power is martyrdom. And love without boundaries is self-destruction. As long as you are trying to please everyone, you will be in their hands, a hostage of your own kindness. You begin to see clearly now. The world doesn't reward virtue. It rewards leverage. It respects weight. It honors those who command space, not those who beg for it. This is where Machiavelli returns. Not as a villain, but as a mirror. He did not write The Prince to teach cruelty. He wrote it to reveal what idealists refuse to see. That goodness alone is not protection. That morality without might is a liability. Being good is not enough. In many cases, being good is the quickest way to be discarded. What he offered was not corruption. It was a map out of naivety and into sovereignty. He warned, "A man who wishes to act in all circumstances like a good man is doomed to ruin among so many who are not good." You've seen this. You've lived this. You've played fair in a game designed to reward the ruthless. You've been loyal to the disloyal. You've been honest with manipulators. And you called it integrity. But integrity without discernment is not virtue. It's a sacrifice to wolves. People do not play fair. And if you continue to play as if they do, you will always lose. It's time to reclaim the throne within. Power, real power, is not about domination. It is not cruelty. It is not coldness. It is the force of presence. It is self-command. It is knowing that your voice shapes the space around you, and that you are no longer available to be an emotional convenience. The prince must be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to terrify wolves. This is not metaphor. This is method. You must be cunning enough to see the hidden motives, the gaslight wrapped in a compliment, the flattery disguised as control, the subtle guilt woven into manipulation. But you must also be a lion, someone who carries the weight of consequence. So when they think of disrespecting you, they pause. When they think of using you, they reconsider, because you are no longer predictable. True respect arises from the perception that you are someone with the power to act, that you cannot be trampled without reaction. This is not about vengeance. It is about presence, command, silence that speaks louder than pleading, the power of withholding, of disengaging, of walking away. Because when you no longer need to be liked, you become untouchable. When your self-worth is no longer tied to others' comfort, you stop asking for crumbs and start building your own empire. This is the new morality. Sovereign kindness, strategic love, boundaried presence. You can still be good, but let your goodness be edged with discernment. You can still be compassionate, but let your compassion flow from choice, not fear. And when the world tries to guilt you back into obedience, remember, everyone sees what you appear to be, but few feel what you really are. So make your presence undeniable. Make your boundaries felt in the silence. Let your distance speak louder than explanations. You do not need to roar, but you must never again shrink. This is not the end of your kindness. This is its evolution. No more playing the lamb in the lion's den. No more being the peacekeeper who lives in pieces. From this point forward, you do not betray your truth for applause. You do not trade your fire for belonging. You do not dim your power for the fragile egos of manipulators. Let your very existence now be a boundary. Becoming the edge. You do not need to shout to be heard. You do not need to beg to be seen. You do not need to explain your worth to anyone. You only need to become the edge. Not loud, but sharp. Not aggressive, but undeniable. Not reactive, but precise. Those who never confront, never threaten. And those who do not threaten are not taken seriously. Let that sink in. This isn't about becoming a threat. It's about becoming someone with consequence. Someone who cannot be overlooked. Someone who cannot be emotionally pickpocketed. Someone whose silence carries more weight than most people's words. Because when people can no longer read you, when they can no longer predict your reactions, when they can no longer guilt you into obedience, you become something they both respect and fear. A presence, a force, a sovereign center of gravity. They are seen as a resource, not a presence. As a tool, not as an individual. You were never meant to be someone's utility. You were not born to be someone's emotional crutch or a cushion for their chaos. You were meant to be felt, even in silence. To become the edge is to step beyond the need for validation, to stop negotiating your instincts, to no longer offer explanations to people who never earned your truth. It's to look in the mirror and whisper, "I will not be used again," not because you're bitter, but because you've finally remembered your value. You can kill yourself trying to please. But if you do not represent power or consequence, no one will hesitate to use you. This is the shift. You don't ask for respect anymore. You embody it. You don't explain your boundaries. You enforce them. You don't fear losing people. You fear losing yourself. Because when you are whole, when your self-worth is no longer outsourced, you become something rare in this world. Unbothered, not indifferent, but sovereign. No longer begging for breadcrumbs of attention. No longer giving discounts on your presence. No longer shrinking just to make others comfortable. You become the person who pauses a room. Not because you shout, but because you radiate something they cannot define. You've become the edge that cuts through manipulation, the edge that dismantles control, the edge that cannot be guilted into silence. You can still be kind, but now your kindness has claws. You can still be generous, but now it's offered only to those who reciprocate. You can still be soft, but only when it is safe to be. This is emotional maturity. This is philosophical fire. This is strategic sovereignty. The world is not governed by kindness, but by utility. The prince must appear virtuous when it is convenient, and be strategic when it is necessary. This is the kind of balance Machiavelli spoke of. Not a descent into cruelty, but an ascent into clarity. You stop waiting to be chosen. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop lowering your frequency to keep someone comfortable in their mediocrity. And that's when everything changes. Because presence is not something you chase. It's something you build. It's something you become. Weakness disguised as virtue is a death sentence. So let your silence now be a signal. Let your refusal to engage in every battle be your strength. Let your ability to walk away be the loudest thing you ever say. You don't owe access to everyone. Not everyone deserves your clarity. Not everyone earns your softness. Let them feel your absence when they mistake your presence for convenience. Let them learn, not through arguments, but through your disengagement. Because when you're the edge, you no longer defend yourself. You define yourself. And you stop waiting for the world to recognize you. Because now, finally, you recognize yourself. The quiet crown. You do not need to conquer the world. You only need to reclaim yourself. This is the final stage. The quietest, but also the most powerful. After the rebellion of boundaries. After the awakening of strategic clarity. After shedding the skin of your people-pleasing past. You arrive here. Not at war, but in peace. The kind of peace that doesn't ask permission. The kind that doesn't need applause. The kind that wears no armor. Because it is the armor. You are no longer performing. You are no longer explaining. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You have chosen yourself. You weren't born wanting to please everyone. That was taught to you. And worse, it was conditioned. Now, you unlearn it all. The poisoned idea that love must be earned through self-erasure. The myth that kindness means swallowing pain. The fantasy that fairness will always be rewarded. It was never love if you had to shrink for it. It was never peace if it came at the cost of your voice. It was never kindness if it killed you slowly. Kindness without strength is just fresh meat in the middle of the jungle. So you stop waiting for others to validate you. You stop dressing your fear as compassion. You stop being the emotional sponge for everyone who refused to clean up their mess. And you rise. In silence. In stillness. In sovereignty. This is what Machiavelli understood. That real power is not volume. It is not control. It is not cruelty. It is poise. True respect arises from the perception that you are someone with the power to act. You don't have to act all the time. You only need to be someone capable of it. Someone who does not bluff. Someone who walks away when their soul says, go. This is the quiet crown. Not made of gold, but of self-respect. Not worn on your head, but in your posture, your presence, your pulse. It's when you realize you don't have to yell to set a boundary. You don't have to convince people to treat you well. You don't need to explain why you won't shrink anymore. You simply don't. Your dignity has become divine. Your silence has become strategy. Your distance has become medicine. The day you are no longer useful, you will be forgotten, replaced, silenced, and the worst part? Without a shred of guilt from the other side. This is not bitterness. This is wisdom. And it's why now you don't seek fairness. You create equilibrium, not by controlling others, but by mastering your own reactions. You do not chase love. You offer presence, and if it's not honored, you withdraw it. You do not demand respect. You embody it so fiercely, so quietly, that others either rise to meet it or fall away. This is the new face of goodness. Firm, sovereign, unapologetically awake. You don't wear your virtue like shackles anymore. You wear it like a sword, polished, ready, silent. And this sword? It's not meant to wound, but to cut through illusion, to sever the ties that held you hostage, to divide your truth from their expectations, to remind you that boundaries are not the opposite of love. They are the highest form of it. True kindness does not require you to nullify yourself. It requires awareness, clarity, choice. You have earned your quiet crown, and it is not heavy, because it was always yours. It's made of every time you said no when it scared you, every time you didn't reply to guilt, every time you walked away from what drained you. You have nothing left to prove. You have outgrown the performance. You have buried the good person costume. You have kissed the mask goodbye. And now you lead. With silence. With softness that bites. With eyes that don't flinch. With truth that does not beg. You don't need revenge. You don't need applause. You just need presence. The kind that cannot be stolen. The kind that is no longer available to the wrong people. The kind that is quiet, but unforgettable. You are no longer the one who pleases to survive. You are the one who chooses to thrive. It is not the good who win. It is the effective who win. And now, you are both. Kind, but strategic. Empathic, but boundaried. Soft, but sovereign. You are the paradox they never saw coming. And from here on out, you do not ask to be free. You simply are. This is your quiet crown. Wear it well.